Etepu, Haru Nefer, and Namaste. This is Kasarkma Keparu with another broadcast for you. And today I want to talk to you about Tehuti and the Tao. Now understand that the Tao, the T is interchangeable with the D, so you may hear some people refer to it with a D pronunciation or a T pronunciation. And the same thing with Tehuti. There are people who are pronouncing as Jehuti, or if you want to go by his Greek name, Thought, and there's a book of thought that I believe Aleister Crowley had possession of, and he took a trip to Egypt where he received counseling from Jehuti of Thoth, and Thoth is also, or Tehuti is also known as Hermes. But back to my point, because I don't want to get off subject here, we have to understand that the purpose of us coming to this planet, being reincarnated, and our relationship to God is not that God wants us to do good. That's a given, and it's a very superficial way of looking at life. You should always do good, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. But the idea is that you have to do two things. Number one, well, let me preface this by saying you have made a pre-life agreement, and you're probably not aware of that pre-life agreement, because when you are reincarnated, you lose your memory, and the reason that you don't remember anything from the past life or the pre-life agreement when you met with Tehuti is the simple fact that the Netter, Yahweh, God, Source, wants you to have a real, authentic experience so that you can gain wisdom and knowledge and communicate that to the Oversoul so that God could know itself better. See, in the beginning, God, it was only God, and God had infinite power, infinite potential, but God had no experience because there was only one, and there was nothing to interact with. So, thus begun the separation from the subjective to the objective realm. The one became two, and then God had something to interact with. God's consciousness could look back upon itself and understand its infinite potential more. And from there, things began to separate even more into the Trinity, and so on and so forth. But the idea is two things. The reason why you're here is, number one, to live out your destiny or your pre-life agreement. What is the theme that you're exploring? Your inner intuitive nature can tell you that. Your higher consciousness, Tehuti, can tell you that. Or an oracle reading, which is, again, communicating with God's intelligence, which is Tehuti. And the second thing is understanding the Tao, or the Tao, the way. And this is very important because it comes from our Chinese ancestry. And if you go way, way back to Buddha and Confucius, or Confucius, as he should be pronounced, the original people, the original Chinese, were of darker skin hue, and they were called the Nak people, N-A-K. And then, over the course of time, they lost their melanin and they separated the two groups. But if you go into certain parts of China, in certain regions, you'll still see a very dark hue Chinese people. Same thing with India and Indians. There are some that could be lighter, but there are some that are just as black as African Americans or Africans, So your objective here is to understand the way. And if you were ever to get the I-Ching or the I-Ching or the I-Ching, the I-Ching is a Chinese oracle system that uses yarrow sticks or coins, Chinese coins. And the I-Ching is a philosophy of how to live your life. But the one common thing about those is that they talk about this way. And what is the way? The way is understanding how, let me put it in simple terms, the forces of nature work on this planet, Geb or Gaia, and or how the universe operates, in aligning your frequency and energy to that so that you can live a harmonious life. Because it's like going against the grain, or the wind is blowing and you're going against the wind, when you could sail with it. There's a funny saying, is like, who said this? Everybody, there's an actor saying, people are always trying to skate uphill. Well, that's a perfect example of not living according to the Tao, because you want to find out what is the right thing to do at the right time, okay? And now we're not talking about a left brain concept such as Moses' book of Moses' law, the Ten Commandments. We really take it from Ma'at to 42 negative confessions. We're talking about understanding how energy, metaphysics, and everything works, so you can align yourself with that. The best example is, you have to understand that there are seasons. So when the leaves begin to fall off the trees, that is the time, or you should start before then, is to start collecting food, preparing for a cold, harsh winter. If you don't do that and you go about haphazardly having fun, when the winter hits, you will have no storage of food. Therefore, you will not be aligned with the way. Does that make sense? For example, I could be very, very upset at something my coworker did, and my coworker was totally wrong. They were totally wrong. And I want to march in there and tell my boss to get this reconciled, right? But the I-Ching may say, wait for 2 days. And you may be like, well, why do I have to wait for 2 days? We're just marching there now. Well, you go marching in there and your boss starts yelling at you because your boss got yelled at by her boss, and she also had a death in the family, so she's going through a lot of stuff herself and she took it out on you. Meanwhile, if you had followed the way, the Tao or the I-Ching, and waited 2 days, you'd have walked in there, your boss would have gone through all of that and become a little bit more calm and could sit down and reasonably talk to you. So I'm just trying to give you an example of what this whole idea of the way means. Don't go against the grain, go with it. Water, perfect Chinese analogy. If you look at a rock, water flows and can actually reshape a rock over the course of hundreds of years. So the I-Ching will tell you that when you could do things, how long they will take, and when you should initiate that. But however, our primitive society tells us that don't sleep with your neighbor's wife, don't kill. But those are like obvious things, And when Pharaoh was seeking out Moses, they were trying to find Moses because he had killed one of Pharaoh's men. And this is before Moses got the Ten Commandments. So obviously there was already a law in place which said thou shalt not kill, Not in those words, but there's already a law in place. So what I'm telling you is that our goal, again, going back to what I said previously, is number one, understand our destiny so we can explore that theme, so the oversoul can collect information and nectar of God can have a greater understanding of itself. And two is to understand the way. And to do that, to understand the way of the Tao takes either becoming a sage or going to an oracle system like the I-Ching, the Metu Neter, Ifa, or the tarot. And one of the cards in the tarot is the wise man, the hermit. So this is a guy who's off on his own and has studied a lot and has understanding of the way, the Tao. Prior to that, he came in the form of the hangman who was hanging and was contemplating and pondering life itself. And that's just a couple of archetypes that you need to understand Tehuti, Jehuti, or the Tao more. And this is really advanced wisdom and knowledge. It's because when you are able to go within to a deep Zen meditative state, to intuit knowledge and wisdom that allows you to align with the universe, and all your actions are done at the right time, at the right place, you are on the level of God-man, God-woman. Now, let me take this a step further and show you how this works for the Magi or the magician. When I am doing my rituals or reciting mantras, what I am really doing, or if I go into meditative state with an objective, what I'm really doing is I'm jumping from parallel universe to parallel universe. True, but more importantly, I am aligning everything in my world so that whatever I do, it seems that luck is with me, that fortune favors me. you understand what I'm saying? And that is another way of being aligned with the Tao, is when you're doing your magic and you get the promotion, you're walking down the street and you find $10 on the ground there, and you run and you're able to catch the elevator on time, and you come outside and you're able to get a taxi is waiting for you right then and there. All of these things are manipulating the metaphysical forces of our fourth dimensional plane to align things for our favor. But realistically, what we're doing is we're working our magic and our juju to align to the Tao in a way. And that's what magic is. It's a beautiful thing, because when you really get to a high proficiency with magic and you're able to quantum leap to those parallel worlds, and because remember, you're jumping to different parallel worlds faster than you can even imagine. This is what gives you the illusion of motion. The mere fact that you can move is really you jumping from parallel world to parallel world. So in the final end of things, what I'm trying to say is our ancestors, the Chinese sages, the African shaman, all of them knew that manipulating the forces of nature was a way to align yourself with the Tao. And the perfect way of understanding what the way is, the Tao is through the oracles. So you should dive into that, learn it, master it, and become a sage, but more importantly, become God-man, God-woman. All right, so this is Kasakma Keperu. If you like this video, hit that like button, and please subscribe to my channel and share this with friends and family to get this revolution started. And also subscribe to my Patreon campaign, where you'll have exclusive content. You'll get special ebooks and videos that you won't find anywhere else unless you are a Patreon supporter. So thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Kasakma Keperu, and that's all for now. Amun Ra. Hey, I'm back. One quick thing which perfectly demonstrates how the Tao works, or being aligned with the way. I jumped on a train after I made the video, and I'm sitting there. I decided to listen to music, so I put my earphones in and I was listening to an old school rap track with Curtis Blow called Basketball. So basically he's rapping about basketball. All right, so I'm in my own world, and I noticed a bunch of kids get on the train, and they're goofing around having fun, and next thing I know, I feel something hit my left foot, and I wasn't thinking much of it, but then this kid comes over to me. Remember, as I'm listening to Curtis Blow's Basketball, kid comes up to me and he says, "Mister, could you hand me my basketball?" So I looked down, and lo and behold, behind my leg was his basketball. So I picked it up and handed it to him. And I'm like, what a coincidence. Isn't that synchronicity? So that's just an example of moving to that parallel universe, or being aligned with the Tao, the way. So that's it. This is Kasakma Keperu, and bye.